Welcome once again to the Radical Imagination. I'm your host, Jim Vrettos. Every so often, the Radical Imagination likes to feature some of the incredible artistic and creative talent our community has developed and offers. It's an endlessly rich journey that speaks well for New York City's continued capacity to draw and nurture the best in us. Even in these polarized times, and even in the face of a slew of local and national political demagogues, New York City is still the Big Apple. It's Fun City, the place that draws and nurtures people from around the world who yearn to be free to express their lives and visions in ways that are transformative and liberating. As Cornel West puts it, the musicians could be the vanguard of the species. They connect us not in abstract discourse, but to deep and profound levels of our humanity. They're able to help us develop and mature by keeping alive visions of truth, beauty, goodness, and love. Today, to inspire and entertain us, I've invited Maestro Gregory Singer to the show. Gregory is the son of a renowned conductor, Ju Singer, and grew up surrounded by great music and legendary artists. He's a noted violinist, composer, conductor, and artist in his own right, and is the music director of the Manhattan Symphonie, which has performed on 5 tours of China and in numerous concerts at prestigious American venues such as Lincoln Center and Carnegie Hall. Gregory has brought with him today the talented Canvas String Quartet, who will offer premiere performances of some of his compositions. The quartet includes Ju Jin-Bornet, first violin, Alison Molino, second violin, Allyson Care, viola, and James Acampora, cello. Gregory, so that was the first two movements of your string quartet, number one. What did you, this is the first time that you've heard it played by other people. And tell us what you feeling right now, and tell us about the outstanding members of this Canvas Quartet who've been playing this for you and for us and for our audience.
Well, it was pretty amazing. First of all, I was quite moved. And there was a lot of different emotions, almost for a moment humorous, thinking like, are they really playing my music? Did I write that? What kind of mood was I in when I wrote that, you know?
Right.
But it's, they made it sound very legitimate. They made it sound very beautiful. Their interpretation, each and every instrument, the viola, the cello, the violins, they had their own interpretations. Yeah. So I thought, wow, if I could just send that music all over the world, people could play my music, you know. It's like, and I didn't need to practice and play it myself. So it was very a luxury for me.
And we still have one more movement to go.
That's true.
We're going to be here. And so tell us, how did you feel, Ju, playing this?
Oh, so I think everybody can enjoy this music. Like some classical music, there is a level of depth. So like some are very hard, but some are like hard to understand. But Gregory's music is everybody can enjoy. Like once you hear it, like you hear this upbeat of sounding, and then till to the second movement, you feel sad because of this mournful sound. So everybody can connect with this music. So that's great about this.
And you certainly, all four of you played like you've been playing this for years and years and years. But as the Canvas Quartet, how long have you been playing together and practicing?
2 months, right? We were talking about it on the way here. We're like, yeah, I guess it's 2 months.
We've known each other for years, but we just formed this quartet 2 or 3 months ago.
Yeah, we met like 8 years ago. And we played in a tango group. And then we kind of met Claire.
Yeah, a tango group.
And then after that, we met Claire, then we met Ju. And then it all kind of just came together.
Yeah.
And what do you mean by a tango group? You were dance class?
Argentinian tango.
Music, yeah. So we had accordion, we had bass, piano, violin, cello.
Wow, wow. And you were not part of that group?
I was not part of that yet.
Oh, but and
great.
how did you get involved in the group?
So we just met each other in the gigs. Like there was a lot of
I
orchestra
see.
gigs,
Freelance,
and then
yeah.
so we just like connected. But the quartet, it's like a lot of commitment. because like there is a lots of rehearsal time, so it is not easy to set a group, and then it is hard to find the friends that who is in the same mind. So we were just talk about it over and over again, and then like, oh, why don't we make quartet? Because they're just constantly doing music together.
What are your formal music education? That you'd like to tell us about?
Yeah,
or maybe not tell us. No, but how was that experience?
Yeah, I just trained conservatory, like Manhattan School of Music, and then I graduate NYU for master degree because of the scholarship and everything. Yeah, so that's my background.
Jen?
I went to NEC a long time ago now.
NEC?
Yeah.
Now, your family, for instance, so when you first began interested perhaps in art, the artistic world, I heard that your father was a cartoonist and sometimes for the New Yorker magazine?
Yes.
And what is his name?
Mike Toohey.
Mike Toohey?
Yes.
How is Toohey spelled?
T-W-O-H-Y.
T-W-O-H-Y, I see.
Yes.
And I did hear that you were an athlete, or you are an athlete. What are you doing?
I do triathlons, like long distance triathlons, yeah.
Yeah.
Why?
That's a question Alison
how is that
asked me a while
connected to
ago.
your music, your creativity?
Maybe
I'm
just like the
envious, I would
endurance
look.
work and like the perseverance and dedicating yourself to something and sticking with it every day and meeting an end goal like a concert or a race or something like that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Excuse me for saying, but James,
Sure,
also
sure.
you're an artist, yes? You do art, different oil?
What type of art?
All kinds of art?
I guess the process is all the same.
And you're developing over the years and is always working on it, works in progress, so to speak? Or?
Yeah, just like creating. I like the process.
He's the busiest person. He's producing
Producing
like singers,
There's so
and
many
then
things.
making
Oh,
web
take the chaos and
designers.
make something out of it.
And then he has his
I'll do
own
that.
recording that people listen to and then buy it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
part
always
of the
nice.
new
Yeah.
generation, electronics and
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
You are really part of that young generation now that do you find people of your generation gravitating more and more to classical music, or what's the music that they're listening to in addition to what you're playing? Or do you try to appeal to what you think they are also interested in?
It's funny. It's we get hired for weddings, and we often get told, "Well, we want to hear pop music, but in a string quartet." So we hear that a lot, and then we can sneak in some classical music in there. But I think that's like a thing that's happening right now is playing pop music on classical instruments. So and then like we have concerts and stuff, and we try to sprinkle little things in. So we try to mix it up.
So I think musicians need to be adapted more of like contemporary style too. So playing pop music is definitely something that we're enjoying to do, but also classical music needs to be constantly educated to the people so that they are not forgets.
Right.
Because it is like this the long history of it. And
I was going to say,
yeah,
there's such
it
a
is
rich
so
tradition.
important
Right.
that kids should know the classical music is still here, and then they can access to it.
Right.
And Alison, I sort of got in the way and mentioned about your father, but did you want to mention something about your musical training or how you play the viola and the
Her
violin?
mom.
Yeah, tell me. Your mother also?
Yes, my mom was in the San Francisco Opera Orchestra.
San Francisco
for
Opera Orchestra.
40 years.
Wow.
Wow.
So I grew up watching a lot of
musical
opera
artistic family. Yeah, that's
She's so
fantastic.
musical.
I can see that. Yeah, we had a funny way of meeting. Actually, this is a real New York story here between
Yeah,
Long
isn't it?
Island and
Isn't it?
Queens
Yeah.
and Manhattan, freelance musicians, and I met you the same. I met
The
Jim here
violin
in New
shop,
York.
I think.
What?
Violin
Had a
shop.
violin shop.
Yeah, that you
And,
had.
and you as a professor, though, you had the class, you were
Yeah.
helping people, you were discussing prison
Well,
reform and things, and you were
criminology,
talking
sociology.
about those subjects and things.
And
at that
somehow
time.
you
We
were
met.
working with that too. But
Yeah.
to go back to what you were saying.
Well, I was just saying, for instance, I think you all live in the same neighborhood now, is it, basically, or nearby each other, yes, pretty much so?
Within an hour.
I say within an hour. I say, well, for New York, that's close, I guess.
Depending on the traffic.
I see. I'm just curious, and how often do you rehearse? Once a week, twice a week? It depends if you have a concert
We're
coming
doing
up or
once
something?
a week right now, but I think we would like to do twice a week, every other week. I think that's what we're getting into. And depending on a concert, if we have a
Yeah,
show
but
coming
this
up.
week we're gonna
We're meeting like
did
3 or 4 times.
two rehearsal, and then we're gonna meet 2 more times, so it is gonna be 4 times.
Who decides now what you're going to play?
It's funny, we were talking about this in the car right over here, and we were just kind of thinking, okay, well, what's on everybody's wish list?
Yeah.
So I picked one of the pieces that we're working on right now, and then I think you picked another piece that we're working on. And Ju, you picked the
Yeah, the
piazzolla that
very
we're doing.
first piece,
And then
yeah.
Alison, you're next.
Yeah. So we're like talking to each other, and then we just listen, and then just decide, oh, is this one we want to play? We just like, you know, the 2 or 3 people agree on that, then like
what is the work? give us a work that you're now either working on or practicing or plan to.
What composer?
What composer? What?
Oh, Smetana.
Smetana.
Yeah, From My Life. Yeah, that is a string quartet number 1.
I'm sorry, what was the name of it?
From My Life.
From My Life,
yeah.
okay.
So that is a beautiful piece. And then
Bohemian.
James has a lot of information about it, right? He has a depression, right?
Yeah. Oh, Smetana? Yeah. Czech composer. Yeah, Czech. But when he was alive, Germany took over Czech Republic, so he, later in his life, he's like, oh wait, I'm Czech. I have to write this music and make it popular because like this represents Czech culture, which has been hidden forever. So that kind of, that's where it came from.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Now we haven't played the third movement yet. You're yet to hear that sort of gypsy style third movement. I'm just curious, would you consider playing my quartet in the future somewhere for a performance? You would? Yeah.
Oh yes.
Thank you. That would be great.
Yeah, we would love to.
Yeah.
We would really love to.
Especially at a concert where Yo-Yo Ma might be, and the Tokyo String Quartet and stuff.
They might want to play the quartet, yeah.
Why not? Absolutely.
Well, I'll be writing more quartets also, so there'll be more for you to check out and see.
That'd be great.
We're definitely considering to play this Saturday.
Yeah,
we have
my
a
quartet.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be great. Yeah. Maybe I'll come out and listen.
Oh, we would love
that
that so much.
How
Yeah.
beautiful.
Wonderful, yeah.
So I want to thank you all so very, very much for being on the Radical Imagination and showing us, as you were saying, this is really truly a New York story, and we're all pulling together as one here, and making such brilliant, beautiful, wonderful music that uplifts the spirit and soul. So thank you so very, very much.
Don't forget to concentrate on that third movement now.
Yes.
Not done yet. But
here's the third movement.
It does sound wonderful. We're looking forward to hearing your interpretation of it.
Great. Thank you so much for having us here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Gregory, that was so magnificent, so moving. Now, look, this is the first time you've heard this music played by other musicians. So how are you feeling right now? It sounds like a Super Bowl here, right?
No,
the star quarterback, and how you feel. But it must be so magnificent to hear this wonderful, brilliant work.
Well, I'm very touched. I'm really very moved, and it's kind of amazing. It's a little bit like a dream. It's a little bit like just some kind of fantasy. You know, I wonder how famous dramatic composers felt in the 17th century, 18th century, 19th century, when they heard their music for the first time.
Yeah.
And when you hear other personalities, other people interpreting your music, it's fascinating, because a certain amount of it is just kind of routine. They play the notes you've written, half notes, quarter notes. I mean, it's a universal language, so a lot of it will sound almost similar, but yet there's nothing similar. Every touch of their instruments, how much they emphasize a certain note or slide to a note, or the tempo itself, the intensity of it, brings new life to it. So I never heard it with that, of course, that interpretation. And in fact,
you'll never hear it again quite the same way. And you could tell that they were really moved by this.
And they mentioned they will play it again in concert in the future, in which case it'll be different. And they'll get to know it better, they'll be more comfortable with it, and they may change tempos or have other feelings. But still, it's really a great opportunity, Jim. I want to thank you, because it's really unusual to be able to hear
our opportunity to witness and to hear this beautiful.
No, but it's a wonderful thing, and maybe I see where I could improve it, or maybe it felt too long or too short or this or that. But personally, I kind of like the composition, and they did play beautifully.
That's wonderful to hear, because you should. I mean, again, I know I've written articles and books myself, and it's one thing to just do that in solitary, and then to have somebody comment or read excerpts, it's a whole different story. So
for an artist who does artwork or composing music or playing concerts, it's a very stimulating thing, and it's very important to have the opportunity, the locations to perform. For instance, if we didn't come on your show today and play, those musicians might have been at home watching TV. I might have been at home watching TV, or maybe riding my bicycle somewhere, but you gave us the chance to come and they practiced the music and they presented it. First time I heard it, I didn't hear their rehearsals even, and I was really amazed. But again, we artists and musicians need a civilized culture to make our music and art in.
And the audience needs to be shown, and they need the opportunity to hear this instead of the schlock stuff that we're usually exposed to. And so this is very important for the audience, and the interaction, of course, as our audience out there is hearing this, we're not going to be able to see what they're actually experiencing, but that's so crucial to a creative person's heart and soul and ego. Let's put it that way.
Well, it's very important to get some feedback.
Yeah, feedback.
Otherwise, you're writing in a vacuum, and besides, you're not writing because you're not inspired. You're not getting any response. And personally, if I was very wealthy, I might be spending lots of money making posters and sending my music around, but I don't have those opportunities. However, if I can do this organically, in a very acoustic way that people actually notice because the music is good, or they think I'm talented, or they like my artwork, then if I become famous and maybe wealthy someday, it's because I earned it truly from the quality of what I'm doing. But the interaction is crucial. Like I say again, otherwise there's no inspiration, and there are times I'm not inspired.
Well, I was going to get to that. What inspired you, particularly that third movement? Well, all the movements, but what about that third movement?
Well,
because that was so eclectic. That's what I've titled our show, The Eclectic Artistry of Maestro Gregory Singer. So is that an apt phrase for you?
It's actually
eclectic. You're eclectic?
By the way, it's funny because eclectic does not always mean good, but it is eclectic. And what's funny about my writing is it's not overly intellectual or sort of futuristic writing. It's a little bit old-fashioned, but it is really from my own childhood, from my own life. I visited and traveled in Europe. I visited and traveled in China. I used to play in an Irish Civil War band with David Kincaid and the Irish Volunteers. I'm a member of the Musicians Club of New York.
What Civil War band are you talking about?
It was called David Kincaid and the Irish Volunteers. We did Civil War reenacting. But I learned all kinds of music. I played Broadway shows for years, and I worked with different popular groups. So as the young lady was speaking earlier in the quartet, to be a versatile freelance musician, you end up playing different kinds of music. Well, suddenly I would go to sleep and wake up in the morning at times with melodies in my head. Like I have certain waltzes that are in me, and I start to write them down. And then sometimes I have people help me, like Nick Powley is a violist who helped me put it on the computer and do some arranging for me. He's a very fine violist and arranger. Andrew von Gutfeld's a fine composer who writes like Mozart. And when he writes, he does that kind of style. And then there was a fellow named Kai Mandelbaum who writes more of a jazz style. But when I put together these melodies and then bring it to them sometimes to put it on the computer, they helped me flesh it out a little bit. And Gershwin did that too, by the way.
He did.
Yes, Gershwin was a great pianist.
Right.
But many times he had Ferdy Groffet or Nelson Riddle later did things for
Really?
Route 66. I mean, Frank Sinatra used different arrangers, of course.
Right.
I'm sure Elvis Presley didn't arrange all of his hit songs. I mean, they hired professionals to help. But the melodies and the lyrics, so those are, again, something that ideally should be original.
But always, especially at the very important events and concerts you give, there is one figure that's always with you. In fact, today he is with you in his
my father was
tales. Tell us a little about
mentioning
that.
My father and mother, of course. I'm wearing my father's tail jacket for many years on my tours, etc. And I find any excuse, any occasion in front of the public to put on this jacket, which was his. And he was a great violinist. And
from
Poland originally. So he came through war-torn Europe and of course the strife going there in Poland. Came to America and married an American woman who also was, my mother was a very fine pianist.
Yes.
And so between the music making they brought to my life and my twin sister Lori who plays cello and my brothers who play guitar and sing and play some piano also. I mean, it was a musical family.
But they're also, your brother is what? Is he calling him?
The Beastmaster?
The Beastmaster,
yeah,
too.
Mark
Right.
Singer, M-A-R-C.
You're the music
Mark
master,
Singer.
there was a Beastmaster. Okay,
right.
but that's all.
And Lori plays cello and is an actress, was
actress
in Footloose and Fame and all kinds of things.
Right.
And my brother Claude is a writer.
Do you see that sort of vibrancy among some of your friends in the music world today, young or old, in New York City as you interact? Because this seems to be so crucial. This is what gives us the basis of our feelings and our emotions, what you're describing here. It comes from family. And there's narratives that your family had that you've incorporated. It's very complex. And every single person out there listening to us has that narrative too. Some have incorporated into their music or singing or poetry or whatever. But we all need that space. We need that venue in a sense.
That's true. Now you see the wonderful high side of Jim that loves people. That's why he's a professor and a sociologist, because you have this sense, this connection of oral tradition and classical music tradition that goes back several hundred years at least. And that's why you have us on your show, because you see it's important. And we have the quartet members talk about their families and their education, their motivations, their desire to be excellent. So what you're saying to me is very important, because I don't know why, but I have a certain technique, a certain ability to put music down, to put artwork down, to take some kind of a record or a testament of my life, my parents' life, and it comes out of me. And so I just, like, more than the farmer needs the milk, the cow needs to give it. I need to, I'm sorry for that strange expression.
Well, it's okay, we get the point.
I need to make music, I need to perform, I need to show. Otherwise, I sit around and I'm not very inspired and not very happy. And the world is tough these days. So it's nice to bring people together with music and art.
We need to desperately.
It's great that you believe that, and you.
Of course we do.
You champion our culture, our civilization.
You're the one, as Cornell said, you're the vanguard of our species.
Music could be very important.
It is, and it has to be. Yeah. But I'm going to throw you this question out. I don't know. I don't think I've ever asked you this. In your childhood, what is the first piece that you can remember? Was it something your father played, your mother played?
Yes.
What was it? Because my mother, too, was a musician, played the piano, and I remember just such beautiful music flowing, and I just naturally wanted to study the piano. So what is the, can you give us a specific piece even?
Well, you have very good
play it.
You have very good instincts, Jim, because
Yeah.
it's exactly what happened to me. I became sort of hooked by, fortunately, a very pure moment between my mother and father, who played piano and violin. Again, my
They
father
played again with each other.
together.
Right? Together too. Yeah.
Yeah, my father played violin, my mother played piano, and I remember distinctly. I must have been maybe somewhere before or after a year old in a crib.
Wow.
In a crib.
A year old.
I remember. Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
And my parents would play music in the evening, and I remember the music was so beautiful. I actually began to whimper. I was like whimpering, and then the whimper became a
Wow.
cry. And then I remember at some point my parents almost came crashing in the door together to get to me. They couldn't imagine why I was crying suddenly. It may have been 12 o'clock midnight. I don't know why was I crying, but I wanted some attention. I wanted them to know that I was there
Wow.
and that I heard their music, and yet it was a very beautiful moment. And I do remember them they were just enjoying a great moment of playing great music together. And that's when a married couple, a man and a woman, can play music together,
Yeah.
also being in love, but sharing it through great, deep, beautiful emotions in the music. It was a love, I'm sure, that permeated my being. And I've been capturing, and actually, there was artwork around my crib. Staring at this artwork, somehow later I began drawing pictures of the same similar boats and cars and things. So for some reason, I naturally went to a pen and paper or colors and paper,
Yeah,
and I didn't need rehearsals. I didn't need an orchestra. Suddenly, I could just make pictures, and they were finished. So I like that feeling of completion also.
And you did have to, this wasn't an assignment. No. All right, Gregory, go off there and paint us something. This flow that came naturally.
Right.
I mean, Mozart composed.
Mozart was in a musical family also. His father and
Was it 3 years old, 6 years old?
Sure.
He composed this?
That's true. He was composing at a young age.
Maybe you did too.
Well, it's funny. Some families, though, the parents are musical and the kids may run away from music. Maybe they don't want to practice. They want to do something else. Maybe become a scientist or mathematician. In some families, though, where they're mathematicians or business people, someone has to play piano or guitar or drums or something, and they find their world in the opposite of their parents' world. It's their escape, so to speak.
Yeah, right.
But I was lucky to be surrounded. Now, at one point, I was running away from music, though. I didn't want to practice. So I did sort of give it up for a few years, but I came back to it in a different way, and it meant a lot to me. And now
tell that.
it's like, it's fresh for me. It's not like I'm jaded or burned out doing
Absolutely.
hundreds of concerts, but I would like to do a few more concerts,
Right.
though. Yeah.
One more point about your parents here. So your father grew up with a classical musical education, European. Was he influenced by particular composers? And if so, were you also influenced by what he was playing? And perhaps you could play a short excerpt
very much so.
about what
my
he might have been playing.
Well, my father came from Poland. He was
Right.
quite young when he came over to America. And he probably heard religious music. They were Jewish, and he probably heard music from the synagogue. His father was a cantor, was a rabbi.
Uh-huh.
So they came here, and his father died shortly after arriving in America. I believe they were in New Jersey. And the last name was Singer, S-I-N-G-E-R. But my father had to work. Once his father passed away, my father had to suddenly earn a living, and he was teaching lessons for 50 cents or something. But he eventually, at a very young age, joined the Philadelphia Orchestra under Stokowski. So he became really a very accomplished violinist. He studied with Leopold Auer, who was a teacher of Jascha Heifetz.
Wow.
And so my father really enjoyed some years with the Philadelphia Orchestra, and then eventually Stokowski recommended my father to conduct the Dallas Symphony. And eventually my father went off to World War II when he was probably in his early 20s. My mother was a great pianist who was in the South, played for choirs and churches and things like that. And
She was from the South?
Yes, from
And
Texas.
you were born
I was born in Corpus Christi.
The blood of Christ. Right?
That's right. And
so you heard the Southern influence. Would you play
You wanna
today?
hear it? Well, some Southern, I'll play everything.
Go flow with it. Yeah, flow. Go with the flow.
That's that kind of music. And I did some
From
bluegrass.
southern Poland?
That kind of stuff. But then the Polish music would be something more of this sort.
That's definitely from the synagogue. And those
and
themes,
in Chinese, I went to China.
We'll get to the Chinese, but
Irish
in just a minute.
Yeah.
But those themes were so prominent in your string quartet.
Oh, you noticed that?
Yeah, how could one not?
Right,
the
right.
second, well, no, the
last movement or third?
The last movement,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
third movement.
Well, that was a little bit gypsy.
Gypsy. And you intertwine it with the southern.
A little bit, yeah.
Little bit,
yeah. That kind of thing. Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. Now, okay, Manhattan Symphony has gone on orchestra has gone on tour 5 times in China.
Right.
So since like 2005, now was that? Now you've been influenced by that.
Well, that
experience
also
as well
was
in
my
your music?
You know, because of my father. I wish certainly he had lived long enough for me to be able to put together an orchestra for him.
Yeah.
But when I was asked by a violinist named Pei Win to play a Beethoven violin concerto for her, to accompany her with the orchestra, I put together my orchestra for the first time. And in a sense, my Carnegie Hall debut, although at that particular concert was the smaller hall, the Weill Concert Hall, I conducted the Beethoven violin concerto for her. And suddenly I was on podium, on stage, conducting, and it came very natural to me. So my first 2 concerts were in public immediately, of course, as most concerts are, but I didn't have many years of studying conducting. It became natural to me, and in many ways, because I watched my father all these years conducting, it came natural to me, and suddenly I found myself making music with lovely musicians, and I was very inspired.
Right.
And then I began composing melodies also, like I say, and I wrote some waltzes and funny music, some different kinds of music.
But then this violinist also connected you with.
Yes. It was usually by human beings. It was
Yeah.
usually by human beings that I would be motivated to do something. I didn't have a manager.
Right.
I still don't.
Right.
I didn't have a patron or a sponsor that just made things happen for me. So it happened very organically. Still, thanks to you, you're part of that organic process.
Well,
So
I'm so
a cameraman,
grateful
one
for
of,
being
one of the little concerts I did with Mark Peskanoff in Brooklyn, the Bard's concert series,
I know him.
one of the cameraman's wives was a Chinese lady, and they needed an orchestra to go from America to China. And then I did subsequently 5 tours of China. And my last tour was canceled because of COVID. But we were ready to go, and I had all kinds of music prepared. Some were Chinese songs and things I've prepared for the Chinese Lunar New Year festivals. And I must say, we had a good show for the Chinese.
Well, it was just the Lunar New Year was just
recently,
a week ago.
Yeah. And I did some playing also.
What did you play?
Well, I played something I wrote, which sounds like this. Sounds like an erhu, like the Chinese instrument, the erhu. Sounds sort of Chinese, yeah?
Are you familiar? Joshua Bell, I believe, in his latest recording, don't know if you're familiar with this, went to China and tried to bring Western classical music and interpret it there to meet some of the themes and rhythms that he felt there. That he, I don't know if you're. So it seems like you're doing some.
Well, I mean,
similar sorts of things.
Well, we started many years ago. We've done, like I say, 5 tours. Started somewhere around 2005.
Right.
But a lot of the music in China is very classical sounding, very Western. It's very melodic. There's one melody goes like this. Now it has a certain tonality to it,
right.
But it's very classical. It's played on cellos and violas, and it sounds very, in some regards, very Western, very melodic. It's not, too choppy. But yeah, Joshua was, I'm sure, merging the West and the Eastern music together very likely. Yo-Yo does the same. Yeah, the Silk
Road, and but tell us this cross fertilization of music over cultures,
right.
And you certainly represent that, and your work is heard around the world. And
I wish
well, in Europe and Japan, and so. What are some of your thoughts about this? How does that happen?
Well, like Conway West was saying,
Cornell West.
I'm sorry,
the big
Conway.
difference.
Oh,
okay.
I'm sorry. Are there two such people?
Yeah,
Cornell.
There's only one Cornell. There's only one Kenya.
Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. Our audience. Our audience knows about Cornell.
But his quotation is correct.
Right.
And I sense that more and more so because I'm fluctuating between being depressed by what I'm hearing on the news and by things being falling apart, it seems, but music and excellence, people like yourself and Cornell, people who speak about the importance of civilization, of culture, of music, and bringing people closer together through the music. And again, the young lady to my left in the quartet, she's from Korea.
Ju
Jin, of course. There are people from different countries playing classical music in China and all over the world. So there is a great potential if we can bring more access. And I hear people talking to each other about they need music for this and can they borrow this musician for that. And the minute they have access to musicians, and that's what's again good about your show to bring the classical music to the general public here, is that people see it's very accessible. And she's an athlete, Allyson. In other words, you start to see that they have different talents and interests. It all comes from art, from maybe families that are musical and interested in such things.
It's so important. We've had Bobby Sanabria on recent shows, and Mortal Technique, the rapper is going to come on, and but again, and he's listened to Fodor, and he listens to all kinds of music. It's so important. My question becomes the political question. I mean, I would assume that you would not be for boycotting any musician, or would you, or creative person anywhere in the world?
I think first of all,
let's say want to play.
Yeah. No, first of all, you can tell by the quality of the music. If the music itself is original or talented or excellent or amazingly performed, I mean, there's a quality there. You can't fake it. And that does touch a little bit about merit. I mean, someone can't just play the music I play. I studied for years and practiced for hours. So you can't put someone in just because politically they're well connected to the left or the right or this country.
No, and government shouldn't be in the business of encouraging or saying that other musicians can't perform. That's what I'm
terrible. No.
Exactly.
No. If an audience, that's why I'm hoping, or sort of acoustically, organically, if someone notices my artwork or my violin playing or my composition, I would like to have simply the chance to reach the access. In other words, access the public. If they like it, I'll be popular and successful. If they don't, after a few years, I mean, I'll still continue noodling and doodling. Right. But I will realize it's just not for this time, or it's not that important perhaps anymore.
Well, the time is not ready for you because you're ready for what needs to happen.
Well,
That's
with
part
your
of the-
exposure, thanks to you, Jim.
well,
I mean, I'm on the
We'll
show.
get this out. We're gonna it's be linked, and you'll send it
Yeah.
around the world. But no, this is serious because this is important.
Well, I am part of the Musicians Club of New York,
Yeah, I
which is
wanted to ask you about
organization.
that.
Musicians Club of
Right.
New York, Musicians Club New York organization.org, I think is the connection. And the Manhattan Symphonie, and symphony spelled I-E, and Gregory Singer art, or artist, I forgot which, you know. And these are all things where you can reach me and I can help you connect anybody in the world who wants to meet other artists. And recently I've met some dancers, and I have some very fine pianists. And so ideally we can do some outreach programs, reach some students in schools, and we can show that there's a certain discipline and excellence in our music, and people like Jim will bring us to their facilities, their places, and help promote something wonderful. You know, I hope we're worthy.
Of course you are. But what I would love to see, it's been going around my head for a while now, for many years actually, but even more profoundly needed today is for Palestinians and Israelis to play together.
Oh,
and I've done concerts.
Well, they had that, right? I mean, that one fellow, the conductor, what was his name? Daniel Barenboim had a community of Palestinians.
Saeed Orchestra.
And they played together.
Absolutely.
And made great music.
Well,
actually, the majority of people get along very well. But sometimes the politicians don't.
Yeah, that's the point.
Yeah.
And that's the point. They're
Are
not
we discussing
allowed,
politics now?
No. We're touching, but it should be. But they're not allowed to play in Israel. That's wrong. And there's some
but if Israelis went to Palestine or to the Gaza Strip, they wouldn't be allowed to exist, to live maybe.
Well,
I mean,
that's
some are not allowed to play music, some are not allowed to exist, and they'd be killed. All I'm saying is, some of the people love each other and can live and make music together.
Right.
Some of the people are taught and trained to kill each other.
I understand.
So
but
what
what we're saying is we need to work with those people who are open-minded enough, even in the midst.
You know what's funny, Jim? Though what you're saying is true, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I must. But I must say though.
All right.
I noticed though, like you though, because you're a good person, and you're despite any leanings one way or the other politically, you know that something in your body tells you, let's get the musicians together.
Yeah.
Let's bring classical music here. Let's do that music here. What you're saying is that, and what I'm saying, why I interrupted you is that good people find good people. People who love each other will find each other. People who hate each other will find each other, believe me. And they almost deserve each other. But believe me, if you can run your show where you bring nice people, no matter what religion they're from, and they can play their kind of music, and they can speak well of each other, you'll find, as you do know, the majority of people actually get along very well. They want to have
I'm privileged to have this show, and
that's what's
the
wonderful.
Support by
and you do a great. You're
Zanaida
worthy. You're
Freddie
very worthy.
And Carla and Tiffany and Miguel, and there's so this is a voice of liberation, a show that.
And we had Ju Jin, and we had James, and Allyson, and Allyson. In other words, you brought 5 people to the show today, and we may have touched another, hopefully, hundreds and hundreds of people.
Yeah.
And where we did come from, though, is only relevant to a certain degree. I came from Texas. Okay.
Who would have thunk it?
Right. And
you look like you're from Texas.
No, if you put a cowboy hat on me and I play.
Well, you didn't bring your cowboy hat. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Hee-haw. Okay. Well, but then you went up to Oregon or something.
Oregon, Portland, Oregon. My father conducted the Oregon Symphony.
How long were you down?
10 years.
Texas.
Texas, about 5 years.
Okay.
They
were still in the crib, and then they said, "Look, we're packing you up.
Yeah.
We're going to Oregon. We want you to hear some other."
Oh, sure.
Northwest,
yeah, beautiful. I mean, Portland, Oregon was a very beautiful city.
Yeah.
They have some troubles, but it's a very beautiful city.
Yeah. So you've been around.
Yeah. But New York City is a great melting pot.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have met you if I didn't come to New York.
No, and
I played Broadway shows too. I played King and I, Peter Pan, Woman of the
Year. You were with Judy Collins.
Judy Collins.
Traveling.
I did Phantom of the Opera. I did Marvin Gaye, Roberta Flack. And Emerson, Lake and Palmer, a big rock group in the 70s.
So we need to continue that struggle and that, because there are people, as you say, who are so closed. And I have to tell you something. I went to an event briefly, because we're running out of time, but with a, her name is Amal El-Sana, and I've had her on the show. Unbelievable show. By the way, I've done an incredible show with an Israeli and a Palestinian, combatants for peace. The Suli is the Palestinian who spent 10 years in Israeli jail. And Avram is a historian, Israeli historian. They have gotten together. They are forming a nonviolent peace movement, working together. Yeah. And I wanted to just mention one second. This Bedouin woman came on. She's a Bedouin. She's Muslim. She was born in Israel. And this is a woman, she's in Montreal. This is a woman of the world. And I went to an event at Columbia School of Social Work. And 10 people, 10 students who weren't social work students, I understand, walked out before she said anything. And I made a comment. I said, that's really too bad. Don't be so closed-minded. And she handled it well. But that's, you're right. There's some people that
well, they wouldn't let certain people speak on campuses. They wouldn't even let them get on the campus.
Whoever that may be, it's wrong.
No, it is wrong.
It's wrong. And that's why, in the last 2 minutes we have here, you get that final word in that does appeal to our better angels.
Well, that's very kind of you.
And that's what you're doing.
Well, you're bringing it forth. You're worthy
together.
of what you have to offer and to help people communicate. I would just say that I'm a product, in a sense, of a mixed marriage from mixed religions. Came to America, which is the melting pot of immigrants. And we came here, and I was never taught for decades to hate someone because of the color of their skin or their religion or anything. That's why these days I feel a lot of the hatred is manufactured by people who want to promote hatred. We must almost ignore it though and bring more music, more art, and people from all backgrounds, and sometimes not even ask their background. Sometimes not even to ask where they came from, but just enjoy the moment, enjoy the music, the ping pong, the pool table, the card game.
Hopefully we'll get to the point where we don't have to do that.
Yes, and we will. We have to.
What Martin Luther King said too, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. He said, don't judge by the color of your skin, only by your heart. But that's why we met each other. I believe you're a good person, very inspired.
Well,
and
we met with Fodor, who was also an international
I think the idea is to be proactive
too.
in a very positive way, though.
Exactly.
There's no point, and check yourself if you're being hateful or not. Have a scale and ask yourself some questions. Is it loving? Is it nurturing? Is it helpful? And then do something constructive, something excellent.
In the 25 seconds we have, one more time, how do people reach you? Here, we're going to have some of your artwork also on the show as we go off here. That's going to be put on. How do we reach you? And how
Manhattan
do we hear
Symphonie.
you?
Symphony spelled with an I-E, SYMPHONIE, Manhattan Symphonie at whatever it is. .com or and then Gregory Singer.
Gregory Singer
at Verizon.net. Gregory Singer at Verizon.net.
Are you playing at the Barge?
Sometimes with Mark Peskanoff at the Barge concert series.
He is an excellent pianist who played
Alex and Mark, and Mark's a great violinist. Alex is a great pianist, his brother.
Yeah.
And so Gregory Singer.
Gregory Singer.
Singer, Gregory Singer. You can look for my artwork and my music and try to reach me. Try a couple times because I'm not great with electronics.
Yeah, and your voicemail is always full. But keep trying, keep trying. Gregory.
Jimmy, you're the
greatest.
Thank you
so very, very much.
Jim Vrettos, you're a star, a king.
Oh,
thank you very much.
Stop it. Anyway, thank you so very, very much.
Can I show my tails? Can I stand up?
Stand up, as we say, as I'm going to say. Go play whatever you want to play as we go off. Your father's tales.
Yeah.
Thank you so very, very much again. This is Jim Vrettos. Thank you so very, very much for being with us here on The Radical Imagination.